Hola, muy buenos dias. Good morning. I hope you are well and staying focused on what you can control. My name is Patricia Mota, and I am serving as President and CEO of HACE, the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, a national nonprofit whose mission since 1982 is to positively impact workplaces by cultivating the pipeline of Latino talent, providing our community the insight, access, and support to be successful in their careers. If you're not part of the HACE Familia, welcome, and please engage in the chat. We want to hear from you. Leverage this opportunity to network, connect with one another, and let us know who you are. So we want to hear in the chat, where are you tuning in from? And also talk about Cafecito. A few things before I introduce our special guests for today is that if you are part of an employee resource group, business resource group, affinity networks, whatever your organization may call these type of groups that help support specific initiatives within your organization, we're having an ERG-BRG symposium on November 3rd. So that's coming up next week. Check out our website for more information. Second news I have for you is that we just relaunched the second cohort of Mujeres de HACE entrepreneurs. So you'll see that information on the website as well. If you are interested or know of that Latina entrepreneur looking for access to meaningful networks, culturally relevant content, support to be able to grow her business, please get that information on the HACE website as well. And the third and the final thing that I have for you all this morning, and I know my colleagues are going to drop that information in the chat for you all, is our Chicago Auxiliary Board is having an event next week, November 4th, first in person in 3 years. And so we're excited to see many of you celebrate and also be able to provide and grow our scholarship fund for HACE. So let's get right into it. I know that's a lot of news and great news that are coming up. Good morning to everyone. I'd like to welcome our guest, Melody Gonzales, who is the Executive Director of the White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity for Hispanics. Good morning, Melody. How are you today?
Buenos dias. It is so much fun to be with you. First of all, it was great to be with you and the Mujeres de HACE in Washington, D.C. last week. We had a really great event. So much fun to talk about an issue I wish we didn't have to talk about, the Latina pay gap, but to be in community with the great ladies of HACE was incredible as we were all there strategizing, sharing good practices. But so happy to be with you this morning.
Exactly. Long time no see. A shout out to our Mujeres de HACE alumni out in Washington, D.C., who hosted a phenomenal empowerment brief last week. And I had the opportunity to engage with Melody on a panel discussion regarding the Latina pay gap and how do we address that. So Melody, in our Cafecito con HACE, what we ask our guests every time is, how do you like your cafecito, your coffee prepared, or your morning beverage of choice?
Yes, I love the question. I was actually thinking I have my little cafecito here. Actually, this is from one of my alma maters. This is my Georgetown mug. I have one for UC San Diego, which is my undergrad. Georgetown is grad school. And during the week, I like to have my cafecito with a little protein or maybe some collagen powder, some extra healthiness mixed into it. But if I am home in San Diego, I love having cafecito con pan dulce with a little concha on the side and just mixing in a little bit of vanilla and different flavors. I save the sweet and fun stuff for the weekend, unless I need it during the week, and a little extra encouragement.
Always good when you have the concha, right? The pan dulce with
and
the
living
café.
in DC and Virginia, I miss the good stuff from back home in San Diego.
Or, that was part of the conversation we had with a lot of the mujeres in DC last week as well, in terms of the food, right? Mexican food in different areas of the U.S. Melody, so folks that are tuning in, we're super grateful that you're spending time with us during this conversation and with HACE, not just last week, but this week as well, to share your story, because I think, we have a relationship with you directly, someone who's leading in our White House, right? And I think that it's so critical that we've gotten, and I would say the most Latinos we've ever had, right, in the White House that are in leadership positions. And so that's super exciting. We're super proud of you. We want to know about you and your story. Can you share about your background and how you got to in your current role today?
Absolutely. I was born and raised in Chula Vista, California, and San Diego, just a few miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border. And, growing up, I I knew that I aspired to go to college. I saw my parents working in law enforcement, mom as a 911 dispatcher, dad, moving up the ranks and creating a lot of systemic change from the inside. So I knew I wanted to do good. And it was actually on a work conference that brought me out to DC that I picked up a brochure for Georgetown's grad program. And the Masters of Public Policy was described as a master's program for do-gooders. And working in San Diego, I was working at our local NBC station for our local Chamber of Commerce. And I felt like there was something more. I just didn't know what more was at that point. And when I saw that brochure and saw how alumni were leveraging the policy degree to make a difference internationally or here in DC or for local nonprofits, I was like, that's what I need to do. And so I applied. That's what brought me out to DC. And I think being a Latina here in the nation's capital has just really helped me, understand there are so many important systems in this town that our voices are needed in, that, we deserve places in. And so I've just kind of been on this journey over the years since I graduated from Georgetown, where, I was able to get my foot in the door and work in Congress for 6 years with Javier Becerra. There we realized we needed more staff. So Latino staff in particular. So we did a lot of organizing to help encourage more Latinos to join, to work on campaigns, because a lot of times political campaigns are a great pipeline into policy roles. And along that journey, I myself would go out and campaign. I worked for the President Obama's campaign, the Obama-Biden campaign, and then the re-election. I actually ended up taking leave from Congress to go and work for some of these other different campaigns. But when it came for the re-elect with Obama-Biden, I actually, ended my job on the Hill, took that chance to work on the campaign. And the trajectory since then just really shot up, where then I got a chance to work with the National Hispanic Leadership Agenda. That's where you and I got a chance to meet. We were trying to get more Latinas to run for office, more Latinos to pursue state and presidential appointments. 2 years into that job, then I ended up getting a call from the White House to serve in the to interview and then ultimately serve in the Obama administration. So I had a chance to work first at the U.S. Department of Labor, where Tom Perez was secretary, and then ended the Obama term with the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, where I was deputy chief of staff. And coming out of that, I knew that the White House had a really fantastic leadership development program, and I would take advantage of all the workshops. And I knew that I wanted to do good in a different sort of way coming out of the end of that administration, and landed a job with the National Education Association, where I served for a few years managing Latino grants and advocacy work, also supporting a lot of our educators and actions around the pandemic. And in a few years into that process, I was invited into the Biden-Harris transition team. And at that point, I thought, well, I already had the honor of serving once. If it doesn't happen again, that's fine. But once I saw how intentionally equity was woven into the transition team work to prepare the incoming team for the first 100 days, I was like, wow, this equity work is really historic in a way the city's never seen before, that our federal government hasn't seen before. And so I kind of, was interested, but wanted to make sure I was in a good place with good leaders, that right fit. And it came along. So last Hispanic Heritage Month, I was announced. And then last December, I actually started my presidential appointment in the Biden-Harris administration. So I'm executive director of what we call the White House Hispanic Initiative for short. President Biden expanded our office name. We used to center just on education. We still do, but we're now the White House Initiative, advancing educational equity, excellence, and economic opportunity for Hispanics.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Melody. And those that are tuning in, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll have some time for one or two towards the end of our conversation. But of course, since this is live, this is being recorded, we can always make sure that we send them over and get your questions addressed in the chat. So Melody, and we want to hear, because I know one of the things that you talked about is increasing representation, right? In terms of making sure that you're sharing the opportunities that the White House has, right? In terms of public service roles that individuals can learn about. And so how can you tell us a little bit more? Two things. One is about the career opportunities, but also what does the focus on, equity look like as it pertains to the Hispanic community?
Yeah, what's really exciting in this administration is that President Biden from day one has been issuing a series of executive orders, presidential memoranda that are really driving agencies to, for the first time ever in history, 90 agencies had to draft and implement equity plans, diversity, equity, inclusion and accessibility plans. So if anybody wants to check those out, whitehouse.gov/equity is the site. And it's really interesting because, across every agency, if you're somebody out there who's looking for different partnerships or maybe federal opportunities or jobs, there might be some agencies you might never have thought about connecting with that are really centered on equity. And if you look at those equity plans, you might kind of start to find some interesting and new connection opportunities there. So as a result of all of these different executive orders, including the one creating my office, we really have this huge leeway to go deeper in trying to create systemic change. So from my office's perspective, for example, we've had a chance to partner up with the Aspen Institute and travel all around the country doing White House Initiative Latino Economic Summits. So we've been hosting these at Hispanic serving institutions, a number of different states all across the country. The next one's November 17th at Cal State San Bernardino in California. And we bring federal agency leaders and local leaders together so that we can share that story of how actions like the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and other programs are really making a difference for the Latino community, or how we can better influence and tap those federal dollars to make sure they're really serving Latino students, our immigrant community, English language learners. There's some really important systemic issues that we need to be working on collectively. So Latinos, for example, for many years have been less than 10% of federal workers. For many years, Latino, Hispanic-owned businesses have been less than 2% of those businesses that get federal contracts. And so we're on a mission to really deliver, to move the needle and create the practices and policies that help us, improve. But we need everybody's help.
Do you recall the $1 billion opportunity that comes with that? I recall hearing it in terms of like the potential opportunity. If we were to move the needle, right, with Hispanic businesses getting at least an additional percentage, like how significant that would be, right, for these contracts.
Yeah, and it's incredible. And so I think a lot of times, whether it's jobs or things like Hispanic procurement opportunities in government, a lot of times people just need the information. And so I think what's really exciting is that we have these equity executive orders and memoranda that are really driving agencies to reflect internally and what their policies are, their practices, their programs, public engagement are like. But we also have really dynamic leaders. To your point earlier, right? We have more Latinos that have ever served on a presidential cabinet leading federal agencies. And Isabela Guzman heading the SBA, the Small Business Administration. Miguel Cardona, my boss, is an incredible leader driving us through the Department of Education. Javier Becerra, one of my former bosses as well, at Health and Human Services, and Alejandro Mayorkas at Homeland Security. But even beneath those Senate-confirmed cabinet-level positions, there are so many presidential appointment opportunities that people could still be applying for. So if anybody's interested, know that the Biden-Harris administration is still interviewing and hiring. You can look for full-time presidential appointments, as well as boards and commissions. Like we just had the White House announce 21 leaders will be appointed to a commission for my office, and they represent a number of different sectors. And those boards and commissions roles, you get to keep your day job, right? And you might join, in the case of our commission, 2 meetings a year. We're going to have subcommittees to really get into a lot of different issues and leverage their expertise to share recommendations with us, but also leverage them as ambassadors and influencers out in the community. So those opportunities are really great. The White House, for the first time, also has paid internships. And so we want to make sure more in our Latino community are applying for those paid internships. That's a really exciting opportunity for people to come and get great experience here in Washington, D.C. and be paid so that they can actually, be able to come out and work here during the time that they're there. The other thing is, a lot of people know we have federal jobs through usajobs.gov. But what people might not know is that because of the bipartisan infrastructure law, there are actually a lot of direct hire opportunities. And so y'all don't even have to leave your cities or states if you don't want to. There are so many positions right now that agencies have the authority to fill and hire faster. So if you go to usajobs.gov, you click the infrastructure link, you can start to take a look, and there might be positions there for grant management, for environmental specialists, communication staff, for a number of different agencies. So really exciting opportunities. And I think that we as a Latino community need to leverage these moments, whether it's presidential appointments or these career jobs or the infrastructure law jobs, to really try to grow our representation. Because I see, and I'm sure many of you all in the community see, what a difference it makes to have diverse voices and staff, both on the inside and on the outside, to help our community.
It really does. And my last question for you, Melody, and then we'll take one from the audience, is regarding the current, part of this equity work, right? Is I see the current loan forgiveness initiatives. Can you share the latest updates and how folks can be prepared? Because I know there's a deadline coming up that folks should be aware of.
Absolutely. So this is
Mhm.
really exciting news that Secretary Cardona and all of our leaders across the
Mhm.
administration have been taking out into the community. So please, to everybody listening, help absorb this information, take it out into your circles, because the Biden-Harris administration has really been centered on enacting lasting policies that help us make college more affordable, help us prevent a future debt crisis. So there are a number of different actions. Most immediately, I want to talk about the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Waiver. We call it the PSLF program.
Mhm.
That's the one that has a deadline October 31st. So people need to apply. If you've been a public service worker, like a teacher, you've been working
Mhm.
in state, local, or federal government or tribal governments, maybe you're working in the military or law enforcement or medical fields. If you're in a public service job, go to this website. pslf.gov is the short one. It's easy to remember. And there is a ninja tool, so you can start to enter information, and the tool helps you along the process to see if you qualify. What's great is I'm seeing so many incredible results. Like Diana Gaba, who works at Hispanic Federation, shared her story with us, and we shared it
Mm.
out through social. She had $180,000 of her student loans canceled. Imagine like
Wow.
the freedom that comes with not having to carry that. I know of people in law enforcement, music teachers who've gotten $150,000 canceled, $100,000. So this special waiver right now helps count more payments towards the ultimate goal of
Mm.
120, which is the point when people are able to get the balance of their loans forgiven if they're in public service jobs. I've also heard from our Latino community, some people, they were just paying, didn't realize how far along they were in their payments. So once they filled out the form, they actually got money back. So a
Wow.
lot of great opportunity there. pslf.gov. Don't miss out. Even if you don't know if you're at the 10-year mark yet or not, get in there, fill it out. It could help you get closer to your 120 payments. And then the other big news is, of course, the broader student debt relief program that will cancel $10,000
Mm.
to $20,000 for people that are earning $125,000 or less. So this is a separate program, right? And this is going to help people get $10,000 in federal student debt relief. And if you received a Pell Grant when you were going through college and getting your loans, you'll be eligible for $20,000 in relief. And I think one of the latest stats we had is that 1 in 2 Latinos will actually have their loans canceled completely as a result of this action. And on top of that, our coworkers are doing a lot of great work to try to also think
Did
about
you
for
say
those who have.
50% of Latinos? Is that what I That's
Yes.
huge
Yeah,
that
it's
will get
huge.
there. That's
It's huge,
that
right? So
could be
that's going to
life
help path.
changing, and it's so inspiring to see this type of work, right? That's really moving towards progress, right? And that's the equity piece that I think is so critical. And I'm happy that you're helping lead the way at the White House. We have a question from Teresa. Is it too late to start the process for the public service loan forgiveness?
No, jump in there. pslf.gov is the portal
Mhm.
that you can start to go into this ninja tool. Part of what you'll want to also be thinking about is which jobs did you have that were public service jobs? What were your dates that you worked there?
Mhm.
But the ninja tool will help you along. Make sure you get in there. As a department this week, we're actually having office hours tomorrow for our own employees. We've been doing a lot of public facing workshops too, but I would encourage all of you who are also employers, take a moment to send a note to all of your team members, maybe even give them some time so that they
Mhm.
actually get out and onto this website and make this a priority. Because like I said, people are getting a lot of money canceled, forgiven. They're moving closer to their 120 uh, months of payment. And then they're also, in some cases, maybe even getting money back because they've overpaid.
So get on it, reach out with questions. We have one last question from our colleague Bernice is how can individuals get involved at their local level to start their path into public service?
So many great ways to get involved. And thanks for the question, Berenice. At the local level, there's so many opportunities to engage in public service, whether it's working for your local or state elected officials. Our members of Congress have district offices with opportunities there. There are always boards and commissions that you can get involved with. In my prior life, I also served on a state level board in Virginia, where I now live. But when it comes to these federal positions, the main sites to know are whitehouse.gov, and there's a Join Us section, and there you can really learn more about the paid White House internships. There's also a White House Fellows program, which is really prestigious. That's for more mid-career experienced professionals. We have one of them, Melody Gonzales, who's working with us here at the U.S. Department of Education right now. Really dynamic program. And then, of course, the appointments, which means, one of the things I would also plug is that there's a product called the Plum Book. It's a report that comes out once every 4 years, and it shows a snapshot of who worked at the White House and agencies on one day and one moment of time. So if you go to the Plum Book, you could start to get a glimpse, and I would encourage you to go back over the past several terms, and you can start to see what are the different offices that exist within departments that interest you, what are the sub-offices that exist that might interest you. And then when you go to apply at whitehouse.gov, there's an opportunity there for you to say, okay, these are the types of agencies and offices I'm interested in. Before, it used to feel like a mysterious process, but there are a lot more resources now to help people move into that journey, whether it's full-time or part-time.
Well, Melody, you shared a lot of resources, a ton of information, insight, and so thank you for your time today. Our last question before we wrap up is, what are you most hopeful for?
I am so hopeful for the future. One of the joys of the work that I get to do, we've got a huge email listserv, so I'll also give a plug. Hopefully you all will join our listserv at ed.gov/Hispanic Initiative. We have 250,000 people now on that list because of the loan cancellation news. We're able to do events in person, and what gives me hope the most is seeing the young people that we have an opportunity to connect with, whether it's people like my younger brother, Mark, who is now in DC as well as a fellow with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, a great program that, I'd encourage everybody to apply for and consider. I think about a young Latina I met in El Paso when we did a summit out there, who after our convening said, I had never seen and heard so many Latinos talk about how our culture and our language skills are a professional asset. And I think about young students at Georgia Gwinnett College, who we had a chance to meet with, and they shared how, just the opportunity to connect with our White House Hispanic Initiative event and leaders made such a difference for them, that they felt so seen and valued. There's no metric that you will be able to add to these young minds that are lit and energized and empowered. So I know that there's a lot of negative news that might come across our social media feeds and the news stories. But there's a lot of good happening. And just, thanks to you, Patricia, for all the work that you do to empower our community. And I know so many that are watching and part of your network are doing that. So thanks everybody for your role in helping make the country a better place.
Thank you. I love our ongoing partnership. I'm sure I'll see you again next week. It seems like we've been crossing paths quite a bit lately. But Melody, thank you for taking time today to share your insights and be an inspiration to our HACE familia. Those of you tuning in, continue to engage in the chat if you have any questions, and we'll make sure that you'll be able to have additional information on there. Gracias, Melody. Thank you to everyone. Y hasta la próxima. Take care.
Muchas gracias.